You're listening to the Fringianity Underground podcast. Fringe topics with a Christian point of view. Now here's your host, Leo Rutledge. Today's episode is titled Realities and H.P. Lovecraft, Part 2. This is the second part in a series where I analyze H.P. Lovecraft's writings of short stories from the 1920s and 30s. Today I will be analyzing At the Mountains of Madness, and then I will be analyzing The Shadow over Innsmouth. I will be analyzing them through a Christian point of view. If you want to go to the Fringianity Underground Facebook group, you could check out show images there as well. So with that, let's start the journey.
They were infamous nightmare sculptures, even when telling of age-old bygone things, for Shoggoths and their work ought not to be seen by human beings or portrayed by any beings. At the Mountains of Madness, written by H.P. Lovecraft, 1931.
The story details the events of a disastrous expedition to the Antarctic continent in September 1930, and what was found there by a group of explorers led by the narrator, Dr. William Dyer of Miskatonic University. Throughout the story, Dyer details a series of previously untold events in hopes of deterring another group of explorers who wished to return to the continent. In the end, Dr. William Dyer and Stephen Danforth, chief assistant and pilot, survived the expedition narrowly after learning of an ancient alien city in the Arctic continent where they found the remains of the Old Ones, an old society where the alien race once lived as a scientific society who created the human race, dinosaurs, and many other creatures as slaves. These were considered old gods, who were eventually forced into hiding after creating the Shoggoths, a race of creatures able to shape shift and mimic its creator, and eventually turned on them. The remaining Old Ones retreated beneath the oceans. Professor William Dyer and his pilot assistant survived, but only Dr. William Dyer was left sane from the expedition. Now that was a brief rundown of the story of At the Mountains of Madness. Some little facts about that is, At the Mountains of Madness was really where John Carpenter came up with the idea for his story, the movie The Thing from the 1970s, and also the original movie The Thing really kind of ties into this story very much, because all of the people who made those films were really into H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. Also, the movie Alien and Prometheus have ties to At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. They're very Lovecraftian in their style and how they put you in a place far away from everybody else where there's something going on and people end up dying. And then you find out some kind of a great history of some kind of alien race created everybody, and there are gods or whatever, and they made us by accident or whatever. Also, H.P. Lovecraft wrote At the Mountains of Madness in a time when he was looking up to people like Admiral Richard Byrd. He was a highly respected and decorated admiral. He lived from October 25th, 1888 to March 11th, 1957. He was an American naval officer who specialized in exploration. He was a pioneer and aviator and organizer of polar logistics. He served as a navigator, expedition leader, as the first to reach the North Pole and South Pole by air. He even got the Medal of Honor for heroism. He even made it to the cover of Time magazine. He also, of course, was a Freemason. So he had a tainted point of view from being a high-level Freemason. So therefore, his point of view was not one of Christian point of view, no matter what some people might think. Freemasonry is a secret society, and Freemasons at the top worship Lucifer as God. And if you turn over your dollar bill, you will see In God We Trust. And then if you look over to the one side, you see a pyramid, and you see an eye in that pyramid. Freemasons made all of these symbols on our money, and their God is not the God of the Bible. Their God is Lucifer. So we cannot really trust anything a Freemason says, and if they want to come out of their secret society, which is Freemasonry, and turn to Jesus, they can always do that. But they have to serve Jesus. They cannot serve two masters. They cannot be a Christian and a Freemason. They have to serve Jesus and not serve Lucifer. You can't serve Lucifer or bow to Lucifer or pledge to Lucifer or whatever, as Freemasons do, and serve Jesus Christ. I'm saying all of this because Admiral Byrd went on a journey to the North Pole. He wrote a diary on his deathbed, basically, detailing an account of going to the North Pole, basically finding a giant hole in the earth and flying into it after his plane had navigation issues, went into a giant hole and found a society beneath the earth. He ended up meeting a master, which is most likely Satan. They talked about wars and how we're exploding nuclear weapons or whatever, and some people will eventually want to destroy the whole world, and that's when they will emerge. And they had UFOs, well, flying discs, I should say, and they had swastikas on them, and there's all this, and they had blonde hair, blue eyes, they were Nazi. It's really strange. The whole story is strange. He's seen a mammoth, it was 74 degrees up there, all this stuff. But I don't want to get into all that, but I just want to talk about, the point is, that H.P. Lovecraft was looking up to this man and his story, or his stories, before he went to the North Pole and found the hole in the earth that led to the hollow earth. H.P. Lovecraft was looking up to this man, and that was back in 1931. Admiral Byrd's journey was in 1947, so he hadn't done this yet. But it's amazing how the story of At the Mountains of Madness kind of matches up with Admiral Byrd's story about going to the North Pole. And both of them are basically about finding a secret race of beings in the earth. It's amazing how these stories kind of sound almost similar. They're not exact copies of each other, but these two stories really line up, because At the Mountains of Madness talks about a hole in the earth that the two people that are searching for their lost friend go into, and they find basically tunnels that lead down into the earth, and it's actually warm down there and everything. And Admiral Byrd was talking about how there's a nice warm climate in the North Pole, and there's mammoths outside of that, and there's crystal buildings and all this stuff in the hollow earth, and there's people living there, and they're basically got hoverboard type technology. They have UFOs and all this stuff. And H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness had aliens that were so intelligent and so advanced that they had scientific advancements. They were able to create things, supposedly creating the human race and all this stuff. They were able to DNA manipulate things and all this stuff. I just thought it was quite a coincidence that these two stories kind of match up. So I had to talk about that. Now, if you want to know more about the Hollow Earth and everything, Justin Fall of the Fourth Watch has a whole show on this. In fact, he's got 3 episodes that really talk about this whole thing. And I will put them in the show notes. But it's really interesting because he really talks about General Byrd. In fact, he was the first place that I heard about General Byrd. And then after that, I researched it for myself, which I would require you to do too. And then you'll find out that there is a diary of Admiral Byrd that he wrote on his deathbed of his journey to this hollow earth. Now, I don't know if it's fact or fiction, because like I said, he was a Freemason. So therefore, I don't trust what he says, because when somebody says they're a Freemason, to me, that's basically saying that I work for the other side. So if someone's serving Lucifer, I cannot trust them. But he was a well-renowned person and very respected and highly regarded. So therefore, his word might mean something. I'll leave that up to you, the listener, to decipher what you believe. And please look into it. And like I said, listen to Justin Fall's Fourth Watch episodes where he talks about the hollow earth. I will put it in the show notes for this episode so you can actually listen to it yourself. Now, getting back to H.P. Lovecraft, The Mountains of Madness is probably one of his best written stories. I would say it's got the most science fiction and most interesting stuff in it. But I don't think it's for everybody, at least for people who are just coming into H.P. Lovecraft, because it's really a long, long story. I would advise taking other stories before you get to this. This was one of my favorite audio books that I listened to on my iPod. It's interesting to listen to it anyway. It has some very interesting elements to it, like, talking about the hollow earth in a sense because of the chamber that they go down in and how it's going forever down into the earth and how it's warmer down there. And it just reminds me of, the pit, the abyss, all that stuff in the Bible. Eventually, the abyss will be opened and things will be coming out of it, and men's hearts will be failing them for fear of what's coming onto the earth and all that stuff. And now that might be a porthole, whatever. I don't know. No one really knows right now. But it's just interesting stuff to think about. And this story really makes you think about that stuff. I mean, aside from aliens being the creators of the human race, that's a joke to me, but I know a lot of people in Ancient Aliens and all that stuff are trying to push that right now, but really H.P. Lovecraft was pushing that in the 30s, so I think he was ahead of his time in that sense, but it's not like that really matters because that is garbage to me. I guess that really sums up At the Mountains of Madness for that story and my analysis of all that stuff and Admiral Byrd and all that. So I think I'm just going to go to the next story now.